Hi, I'm Spiky. Welcome to my clinic. Now, who are you and what do you do for a living?
My name is Angie. I am a children's and adult educator. I am a game designer, mostly for educational games, and I'm also a youth worker in the Erasmus Plus framework. Additionally, I'm a co-founder of two non-profit organizations who also are active in the Erasmus Plus framework and mostly are involved in game-based learning and experiential learning, designing games for adults and for children, board games, RPGs, LARPs, etc.
What makes you a professional dreamer and what do you like about it?
I think that what makes me a professional dreamer is that through my work, I can take ideas and make them real and make them into projects. And also by working with youth, you feel somehow that even with small steps, you are changing the world into something different. And if that is not being a professional dreamer, I really don't know what is. Um, and what I like about it is exactly that. The ability to work with young people and especially when they are children and shape them in a way that you know that in the end they will shape the world and feel that you are part of this wave of change is very rewarding and worth of the time and energy you put into this kind of work.
What challenges have you faced as a youth worker?
Being a youth worker is a very, very challenging profession. I think what I have faced most, especially when I was working with refugees, was the lack of support from my superiors, and that led to burnout. And also, an additional challenge is that youth work is highly associated with burnout. Frankly, I don't know even one youth worker that has not experienced burnout. Maybe one that has very recently entered the field, but generally it's expected of people that work with other people that they will experience burnout. At the same time, it's a work that you pour a lot of yourself in, that you put a lot of energy and personal effort. You connect with the people you work with, um, you invest in the people you work with, and this takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort, and inevitably you carry it back home, um, which kind of makes the work life and personal life balance non existent.
What does burnout mean for you? Give some examples.
Burnout for me means a burden that is in the back of your head non-stop and blocks you from doing your job effectively, drains all the energy you have, drains the joy and the love you have for your work, and leaves you bitter and sad. For me specifically, I remember it manifesting in me not wanting to go to my job at all. I remember that I dreaded every moment, every morning that I had to wake up and go in, and I was feeling very guilty about it. I remember that I was often sick. I had terrible headaches and stomach issues, and that caused me actually to not be able to go to work. And I remember that I was also not the only one going through this. Uh, Also, my colleagues had similar experiences and symptoms, and I remember being very sad about it.
If burnout was a dragon, how would you describe it?
If burnout was a dragon, I think it would be a shadow, because you can't really get rid of your shadow. You might be able to temporarily not see it when there is light, but it never really disappears. So for me, burnout would be a shadow dragon always attached to your back, always present, and even in the few moments that you think that is not there, it's always there. It's always lurking, and it will come up the moment you have the sun in front of your face. You can't really get rid of it.
Okay. Whoops. Sorry. How did burnout impact your life and how did you deal with it?
Burnout impacted my life in many ways. The first one was that I very often was physically ill. I had a lot of stomach issues and headaches. I was feeling dizzy. I was feeling weak physically. Also, I started experiencing a lot of stress connected to my work, additional to what I was already experiencing. Um, and it was kind of debilitating. I was feeling very unable to deal with it. I think I dealt with it in that point with a very radical way. I stopped working in the field for a while, thinking that this would be the solution because I was blaming the job, but it was not the job, it was how I was dealing with the job in the end. So, in my first time that I experienced burnout, I removed myself from my work environment and took a very big break doing something completely unrelated to youth work. But surprise, surprise, the burnout stayed. It did not really was dealt with until I realized exactly what burnout is and how I can properly deal with it, which I'm still dealing with it.
What did you learn from your experience?
Uh, what I learned from my experience is that it is okay to say no. I do not need to be involved in every possible project and every possible situation. I learned that it is okay to ask for help and share my thoughts and problems with my close friends. And I also learned that I am not alone. I learned that this is not something that I am experiencing only. This is something very common that many people are going through, especially people working in youth work. And it's always so much helpful when you're sharing your experience and you realize that you're not the only one going through it. Um, Also, I learned a lot about burnout itself. I learned that it is not something that is exclusive to work. I learned that it expresses itself in many ways that we might not realize even, because it's not only stress. Um, and how important is to actively do self-care and actively listen to your body because it gives you warning signs and that it is also preventable.
Now, if you could send a message to your younger self, what would you say to help them prevent burnout?
Huh. If I could send a message to my younger self, uh, I think the most important thing I would try to convince me to do is go to therapy much earlier than I did. To learn how to properly put boundaries, both to other people and to myself. I would tell me that it is okay to say no and that I don't need to accept every challenge as my own. And tell me and remind me that I'm not alone and that there is a reason that my friends are my friends. I can ask for help and I can ask for support and I can talk about my thoughts with the people that are near me. And maybe I would tell myself that in the end, um, there is light in the end of the tunnel, and that we will get through it.